Adding and subtracting fractions. Perform the subtraction. Express the answer as positive or negative quotient of two integers in reduced form. That just means that we're going to write our final answer as a fraction in reduced or simplest form. Here we have 4 over 15 minus 1 over 3. In order to subtract or add fractions, we have to have the same denominator. Since these denominators are different, I'm going to use the definition written on the screen to subtract these two fractions. This says that a over b minus c over d equals a times d minus bc over b times d. So if I were to write this out, I have a is 4, b is 15, c is 1, and d is 3. So this is 4 times 3 minus 15 times 1 all over 15 times 3. First, I'm going to multiply 4 times 3, which is 12, and then 15 times 1, which is 15. Next, we'll multiply the denominator, which is 15 times 3, and that's 45. 12 minus 15 is a negative 3, so my answer is negative 3 over 45. Now I want to reduce the fraction. That means I want to find a number that both 3 and 45 is divisible by. 3 and 45 are both divisible by 3. 3 divided by 3 is negative 1, and 45 divided by 3 is 15. So my final answer is negative 1 over 15. Perform the calculation. Express the answer as a positive or negative quotient of two integers in reduced form. Here we have 7 27ths minus 3/5 plus 1/3. Again, in order to add or subtract fractions, we have to have the common denominator. These denominators are all different. We have 27, 5, and 3 as denominators. In order to add and subtract these fractions, I'm going to use a different method using the LCM. So I'm going to find the least common multiple of all three of these denominators. In order to find the LCM of all three, I need to write the prime factors of each denominator. So 27 is the same as 9 times 3, and then 9 can be broken down as 3 times 3. So the prime factorization of 27 is 3 times 3 times 3. Now I'm going to look at the second denominator, which is 5, and write the prime factorization of 5. Well, 5 is already a prime number, so the only prime number in the prime factorization is just 5. And the same with 3. 3 is just going to equal 3 because 3 is already a prime number. Now the LCM is found by taking each factor the greatest number of times in all three numbers. So first I'll look at 27, and we have a factor of 3. So 3 appears 3 times in 27, and it appears 0 times in 5 and 1 time in 3. So the greatest number of times that 3 occurs in any of those numbers is 3 times. So I'm going to write down 3 times. When I look at 5, 5 occurs the greatest number of times 1 time. So I'll just write down 1, 5. And then if I look at 3, I already took care of the 3's, so I don't need to write down any more 3's, since I know the greatest number of times that it occurs is 3 times. So the LCM is 3 times 3 times 3 times 5. And when we do that multiplication, we get 135. So the LCM is 135. Now that I know that the LCM is 135, I'm going to rewrite each fraction having a denominator of 135. In order to write the equivalent fraction, I'm going to ask myself, 27 times what will give me 135? So in other words, on your calculator, just do 135 divided by 27, and you'll get 5. So that tells me that I have to multiply the top and bottom by 5. So 7 times 5 is 35. So my first fraction will change from 7 over 27 to 35 over 135. Now I'm going to rewrite 3/5 so that its denominator is 135. And 5 times 27 is 135, so I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 27, and I get 81 over 135. Next, I'll look at the third fraction, which is 1/3, and 3 times 45 equals 135. So I'll multiply the top and bottom by 45. 1 times 45 is 45. So this fraction becomes 45 over 135. Now that I've rewritten all of my fractions so that they have a denominator of 135, I can rewrite my problem. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this entire problem using my new fractions. So now I have 35 over 135 minus 81 over 135 plus 45 over 135. Now that these fractions have the same denominator, all I need to do is add or subtract the numerators and then place that over the denominator. So I'll have 35 minus 81 plus 45, and that's all over 135. 35 minus 81 is negative 46. And negative 46 plus 45 is negative 1. So my final answer is negative 1 over 135.